I don't know.
I've never been live. I don't like your livist attitudes.
Never been alive 2020.
Wow, I got it.
Yeah. Welcome, folks, to another episode of The Arena. Let's do standard intros. I'm Janelle Malagon. I've been here a while. Yeah, I feel like that's all you need at this point. Who else is here?
I'm Kelly Breivik. I've been here longer.
Damn!
Yeah. I'm Daniel, visiting scholar. I've been here for a while. I don't know how long, but that's okay.
All the days blend in.
Yeah.
I'm Eric Kirsting, academic extraordinaire.
Beautiful.
No.
That's amazing.
What's the opposite of extraordinaire? Like idiot-aire? That's what I am. But I somehow am in a PhD program, so maybe you can be too.
Wow.
We should do like the introduction like an hour in. Like we should set an alarm and do an hour in, because that's when right nobody's watching like right at the start. You know,
literally no one's
like
here.
most streams have like a we're gonna be on in 5 minutes kind of thing.
That's true.
But not us, because we don't care about your professional standards of streaming broadcasts.
We're
loose guns.
We care about.
Think of like a music movie like Avant, whatever. Like,
I care
Avant-garde?
significantly
No, not
less about what the audience gets out of this and more about what I get out of this.
Wow.
Wow.
And this is why we're here.
This is America.
This is
and
America.
It was an Avant punk band.
America.
That'll work. I think that we can
It was
be on
neither.
I saw a great meme.
Damn, neither will we.
I saw a great meme yesterday. It was like tripping through time. So it's like they take old photographs and like kind of memify them.
That's amazing.
And it was like a picture of like the signing of the Declaration of Independence or Constitution or something like that. And like you got like one guy like, hey, yeah, we should be able to say whatever we want. Yeah, and we should own guns too, man. That'd be dope. Like, this country's gonna be lit. Like.
Oh my god.
I love it.
That's amazing.
All right, so what are we
All
doing
right.
today, Janelle?
So today we are talking about league play, which is kind of ironic because Overwatch League is like 50% of a league anymore. Because a lot of their play is based on tournament styles now. And they have like,
yeah.
I have a quick video so actually first poll. Did anybody watch any Overwatch League this weekend?
No.
Nerds, raise your hand. That's what's up.
I technically watched like 5 minutes, but
That's honestly, that's fine.
Yeah.
Good.
I had
You
trouble
probably-
finding
You probably
YouTube
saw
gaming.
a lot of production problems, like broadcast technical problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's what I'll say. Like, let's just say
Even
we
in
go to
just 5
YouTube.
minutes.
YouTube
Yeah,
for
just
We're
just a
gonna,
second.
we're gonna talk about crunch time.
All right, let's say you go to YouTube and you're like, I want to watch you gaming. Where do you, like, look at this.
Who is gaming?
Where, like,
Who
okay,
is
there it is.
Oh.
That's like, that is not easy to find if you're dumb.
I'm sorry, that's best of YouTube, third from the
No,
top.
dude,
Is
that's
this
like-
even streaming? Like, or is it just,
I honestly don't know.
or is it
Maybe.
just like the gaming like videos?
It's
Here are the
just-
top live streams. Okay.
Wow. Alright.
But it's
Unbelievable.
Bad, it's bad design overall.
Yeah, so...
Oh,
that's
the World
part
Record of
of-
Celeste is on the recommended based on our
Okay, and
subscriptions
it's
and history.
Merlin.
Thank you.
That's what's
YouTube does know what we want. If we want Getting Over It. Wait.
What?
Wow, we're not going to watch Overwatch
will
League
watch
today. All right.
Oh my god.
All
Alright,
right.
we'll go back to that.
Oh,
But,
okay.
okay, so for those of you that didn't watch any Overwatch League this weekend, first, congratulations. Second, it was kind of a clusterfuck. For a lot of different reasons, and we're going to kind of talk about that. So, first,
See us talk.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Okay, so first, they did this really cool thing. Now that everything is on YouTube, they're having a bit of an easier time consolidating media, which is kind of nice. So if you need anything Overwatch League related, you can now find it on YouTube. There were a lot of fan opinions about just how awful the switch to YouTube was, which it was. It was really bad. And one of the things that I want to talk about is kind of what we lose as spectators from this switch from Twitch to YouTube. So I don't know about you guys, but I think that YouTube gaming isn't quite like robust enough yet for this to be like a logical move on Overwatch League's part. There was definitely some kind of big money deal.
Yeah, it depends on how much money they're getting from Google, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if we look at a lot of traditional sports leagues like the NFL or the NBA, a huge part of the revenue is from deals with broadcasters.
Yep.
And so, to some degree, I bet you Overwatch League didn't have that last season or the last couple seasons, and now they do, and that could be that's a huge potential boost.
Actually, like they had a deal with Twitch.
Yeah, they had a
Yeah.
2-year deal and it expired, and then they signed this.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the thing with YouTube is it's not just a broadcast thing. So like, Activision Blizzard signed a deal with Google Alphabet actually, and they moved like the whole infrastructure to Alphabet. So it's not just broadcast rights. Like everything Overwatch and Blizzard in general is now running on Google's servers.
Yep.
And Google's kind of taking a bet there, right? Because that makes it harder to leave that ecosystem.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah, it absolutely. And there's a lot of things as far as like actual engagement. Like there are no emotes. There is no ecosystem from streamers to viewers in terms of like if you're watching an OWL stream. It used to be relatively easy to then go to that OWL player's stream channel. It's all on the same platform. People migrating from platform to platform is just like very difficult, right? You lose a lot of viewers that way.
I never did that. Like, I'm curious about like your take on this because as a spectator, like I didn't felt that much difference between Twitch and YouTube in terms of like Overwatch League because I just tune in, I shut down the chat. And like I watch as I'm watching like television, you know what I mean? So I actually, I mean, like just a first perspective, I felt like YouTube actually run better, like in terms of like latency and like ads and stuff than Twitch. So I didn't feel that huge like difference between Twitch and YouTube in terms of like sheer streaming experience.
I love that you matched your shirt with your socks.
Yes.
That is worth mentioning. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Master Matcher.
Yeah, thank
Very
you.
good.
You made my day.
I don't even match my socks with my socks.
That's amazing. Live your life. Yeah, no, I agree. Like in terms of quality and like buffering and stuff, yeah, I'd say that the actual YouTube stream was better. It was more consistent. But so for me as a spectator, the reason that I like Overwatch League so much is in part because I really like Overwatch players who are very good and have high quality streams.
Okay.
And so then it was like, okay, cool, I'm also an avid sports fan. And so the Overwatch League was a very logical kind of like confluence of those things. But that said, when I watch OWL streams, I will usually choose between leaving the chat on or taking it off. In this case, I left chat on for YouTube just to kind of see how different it was. And it was actually very different. There were more actual conversations happening in the YouTube chat than I saw that they would have been happening in the Twitch chat. Like, Twitch chat just goes way too fast. Where the YouTube chat either has, like, something that forces it to slow down, or just people have an easier time keeping track of each other. I'm not really sure exactly what it is. But there were definitely, like, major changes in terms of how people can interact with the stream and with each other.
Things. Lots of things.
Hey,
Jesus
Play
Christ.
Scholar.
Wait, Play Scholar is Ryan or Leia?
Hello, we're looking at the chat.
Ludo Scholar.
Yeah, Ryan
I
is
know.
Ludo Scholar.
And Gamer Afro is Crystal Lee.
Hi, I'm Scholar Play. No, okay.
You're a ethnic scholar.
Oh no, sorry, I'm Ludo Play. You know.
getting
Play.
both. All right. Okay, I need to send a text to the phone, is what Leia says. So someone with Leia's phone number will apparently know this secret.
Okay.
So, yeah, chat really changed a lot.
I'll go ahead and.
Chat was just used to like get our attention. I've got Leia on.
Oh yeah, she
Messenger
texted me.
right now.
Okay.
Okay, so you're talking.
I'll go ahead and open up chat
Yeah.
so in case.
Cool,
more stuff
thank you.
happens. Okay.
Can someone...
I'm answering
Okay.
her.
Cool. So thank you,
Yes.
collective group.
Don't worry. Don't worry about that. All right. So you've got a video you prepared for us.
I did. So this is just a quick video that talks about like the major changes in terms of the actual league structure, since that's what we're talking about this month. So I'm just gonna go ahead and play it. You guys should be able to hear it, and if you can't, let me know.
Wow, the latency is so not bad. Okay.
The third season of the Overwatch League is underway, so it's time to take a look at what's new in 2020.
Schedule, division,
First
match
off,
format,
the
home
season
games.
is no longer divided into 4 stages, which means no more stage playoffs. Instead, we're introducing our own mid-season tournament, where 4 teams, the 2 conference leaders and 2 wildcard teams, will face off for over $1 million during All-Star Weekend. Additionally, to build up new and existing regional rivalries, the Atlantic and Pacific conferences are now broken
That's
down
really
into
interesting.
4 divisions: East and West in the Pacific, and North and South in the Atlantic.
That makes sense. That was a
We've also
natural
moved
progression.
to a first to 3 map format, meaning once a team wins 3 maps, the match is over. To make
That's
sure
so
all teams
better.
get
It's so
It was
Yeah,
so
it's
confusing
so
before.
We're
better.
rotating the map type order throughout the year as well.
That's a
The
good
biggest
idea.
change in 2020, we're hitting the road.
This is what I'm most excited about and most nervous about.
Me
Entire
too.
season,
I really want to talk
bringing
about
the
this.
Overwatch League right to your own backyard.
I mean, this is the most important thing that they had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because this season, we're coming home.
Because, like, I just imagine, like, if you... So, like, okay, so there's, like, so much to unpack there,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. There's
So,
a lot
like,
here.
why don't we do it one at a time? Because
Yeah.
they specifically delineated, like, 4 things, right? So, like...
I also want to be sure to talk about this very last screen at the end where it just said exclusively on YouTube Gaming. There was no mention of that at all in this entire video. It was just, hey, by the way, we're on YouTube. We're sorry.
Or maybe it was like,
I-
I mean, they could like just do another video, you know?
It
Like,
doesn't impact what they're talking about here, though, right? Which is what's new with the Overwatch League, kind of, if you think about it. Because, like,
Kinda.
the
It
league
affects
is still the
spectators,
same.
though.
It does affect spectators, but it's like NFL now. Like, if NFL was to suddenly be on CBS, it's like, it's probably, well, they are on CBS, but, like, they move to ABC, because they're, I think only Monday Night Football is on ABC. So let's say they move, like, all the Sunday games to ABC. I don't think the NFL really cares to, like, overly advertise that much. That's ABC's job now, because ABC has already paid for the broadcasting rights, right? And so NFL is more concerned with their product in the field and maintaining that integrity than they are necessarily with that sort of thing. And I would assume it's the same for Overwatch League.
Do you feel then that based on what you were saying about the switch to Alphabet servers, that they're kind of just unloading this aspect of it, like the broadcasting and the maintenance and all of that stuff, off to Google and Alphabet, and they're saying we're just going to focus on the game?
I'm not sure because I mean, like, I feel that it's a shared responsibility, you know? On one hand, like, I feel that, like, Alphabet and Google and YouTube, like, they need the numbers in order to, like, to stream, like, profit in terms of, like, ad revenue and stuff. But on the other hand, like, I feel that it's not that just, like, okay, for Blizzard, it makes a difference if they have, like, 10,000 or, like, 100,000. Because, like, that means more people will be able to, like, buy merchandise, more people will be able to buy the game, to follow other, like, content and other, like, products, you know what I mean? So I feel that, like, even, like, it feels like a shared responsibility. I don't know, like, in which hand it falls harder, you know? But neither of them are doing a good job, like, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it is a shared responsibility because ultimately what YouTube has to lose out of this is not benefiting from the deal. That's their biggest loss is really that, because they're doing a lot of other things. They made crazy money.
YouTube doesn't
ads.
live or die on Overwatch League.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so whether or not Blizzard is aware, the majority of the responsibility falls on them.
Yeah.
Because for YouTube, this is just a baby gamble in the grand scheme, in spite of how much money it is.
I'm actually going to disagree. I think there's more nuance here than that. Yes, for Google, that's true. Google's too big for, like, Overwatch League to truly be, like, a huge part of Google's identity.
Okay. But, like,
But
YouTube gaming.
YouTube gaming is a
Fair.
bet. It's a
Yeah,
gamble
for sure.
on YouTube's part to say, we are already the de facto media platform for one particular kind of content, right? Which is short form, user-produced videos. It's, you know, there's a lot more going on, but that we have to simplify things sometimes to talk about other things. They're making a bet, and with YouTube Gaming, with this contract, with the signing of, you know, different players to be exclusive YouTube Gaming, you know, people, that YouTube Gaming can rival a platform like Twitch or Mixer. But I don't want to say our Mixer because YouTube Gaming is probably already bigger than Mixer. Mixer sucks, but but like, I mean, I'm just joking. I just have to. I'm on Twitch. I have to say Twitch is great. Okay.
There's actually like a sniper out of the window right over there.
We all have like Twitch shirts.
They're insane. I mean, you're wearing purple.
You're
Oh,
using
no.
colors, man.
But anyways, it's a bet to say all this money that Twitch that there's a potential for on Twitch. We want a slice of that pie, and this is our move to get that slice of pie. So in terms of YouTube as a thing, you could argue that a huge part of its identity is rooted in whether or not YouTube gaming, and by extension, Overwatch League succeeds or fails. And YouTube, and I know Google is much bigger than YouTube, but YouTube is a huge company in its own right.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, like, if this is a big part of their identity, they have a lot of responsibility to some degree to hope for this to do well. So I think I agree that it's more of an existential issue for Overwatch League than YouTube still, because YouTube's whole identity isn't based around this. YouTube will still be around. But imagine if this fails in 5 years, maybe YouTube gaming is nothing. If this succeeds, maybe YouTube gaming rivals Twitch in 5 years.
Yeah, and like I feel that at the same time I agree with you, and I feel that this at the same time, like, if I'm not mistaken, Overwatch League is probably like the biggest thing on YouTube's hands now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
In terms of like
YouTube gaming
esports
is-
YouTube
institutions,
Yeah.
and like and at the same time I feel that like the format, like how WoW like runs, it's convenient to be on YouTube because like they do a lot of like side shows, you know, like they do sketches, like the casters and analysts. They do like panels talking about players. A lot of like the broadcast talent are like hosting their own channels, like interviewing people. So I feel that like as a spectator, I always feel like more comfortable like seeking this type of like more streamlined like package content on YouTube than on Twitch. You know, like Twitch feels so much like live for me, like live stuff. And YouTube is more like, oh, I need to like watch an interview with some guy. I need to watch the sketch that the guys did at like last show. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel that OWL thrives on that environment.
I think you're right.
And that's the biggest bet, or the biggest maybe tool we might say that YouTube has going for it in terms of these the platform wars right now, right? Is that if you're imagining like a stream and a what we may streamlined video, have very different utilizations by the user, right? So like a clip, like let's say it's like under 10 minutes, you watch the clip, you're done, you might go do something else. While as a stream, it's much longer, but it has maybe less ad revenue per minute or something like that attached to it. And YouTube is the only one of like the four big competitors right now. You know, Facebook, Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. YouTube is the only player that has an easy way to have both of those things coexist. And so to some degree, Overwatch League is in the way that it's formatted as a league and as like as this kind of very multimedia product. And it is being like, cause like let's say we take Ninja's stream. That's not very multimodal or that's not the right multimediated. No, multimedia, because it's like Ninja streaming, but like, and yes, maybe like there's highlights or something on YouTube or whatever, but for the most part, the stream is the deal.
Like transmediated.
Yeah,
transmedia. Like transmedia kind of side stuff.
Yeah. But Overwatch League, not only do you or any esport, right? You have the league, but then you have the ecosystem around the league that like serves as to commentate on it. Now it's weird, kind of, that Blizzard fully controls that almost, right? You don't have like with like Counter-Strike where there's like big podcasts that are completely disassociated from the organizing institutional structures that are talking about it. You don't, and then but also you've got the live event, right? And then you've got the archive of the event, right? And so like. Those are four distinct things. YouTube can do all four of them. Well.
That's true.
I was actually going to talk about the archive.
Well, besides actually, YouTube you can't physically go to YouTube. Actually, never mind. Okay, no, they do three of the
It
four.
can do 3 of the 4.
The other one's home games. That doesn't work.
Yeah. But I think that what YouTube has is a good archiving system, whereas Twitch kind of lacks on that.
Yeah.
So.
Twitch like really focuses on the chronological history of a channel as opposed to things that might have higher priority. Like, I think that your point about how these things kind of get consolidated on YouTube is a really good point. And then with Overwatch, with OWL specifically, what it lets them do is that now it brings more attention to the talent that were dissatisfied and underpaid and horrible stuff happened to them, so they left. But now spectators can actually engage with that stuff because now we like see that it's there and we don't have to watch through, say, 2.5 hours of a broadcast before we get to the watch point in the middle of the game where they do all the fun stuff, like as casters.
Yeah.
So yeah, that will definitely help them.
Let's talk about these.
Let's talk about
things.
this weird stuff.
So we've got a change in schedule.
First off, the season is no longer divided into
pause
4
it.
stages, which means no more stage playoffs. Instead, we're introducing our own mid-season tournament, where 4 teams, the 2 conference leaders and 2 wildcard teams.
So to me, this is a huge bet or gamble, right? And like, or at least maybe huge is the wrong word. Really interesting, really interesting to me because, so like basically what the bet is, right, is like, and I want to mute this, is right here. This is the bet. So what the bet is that like there's a certain amount of what we might call semiotic contingency or semiotic meaning, right? In the outcome of like a major tournament or a stage playoff, right? There's either like, in the case of the stage playoffs, right, those impacted where you would end up in the final playoffs for World Championship, right?
Right.
Like how well you did. And it's just, the NBA is toying with this as well, so that's one of the reasons why it's been on my mind. But there's the big bet, of course, is that players will care. The audience will care about the outcome of this mid-season tournament solely because of the high monetary prize associated with it, right? Because there's no inbuilt meaning other than saying like we won the mid-season tournament. Like the bet is either that fans will say, well, my team won the mid-season. Yeah, they didn't win the world, but they won the mid-season and that matters, right?
Yeah.
Or fans will just tune in because it's like, I really like seeing my favorite teams play, and this $1 million makes it a meaningful competition. Like, it is legitimate competition.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And it is a lot of money, but do you guys think that this gamble will work because it's functionally separate from the league, right? This tournament that they're using instead of like, you know, it's no longer a part of sanctioned league play.
Sure. Like now we're currently leading at this halfway point in the season, therefore we're going to fight each other and see who's better. So I think that it will force people like me who are fans of teams that suck to be invested by the mid-season. Because the Florida Mayhem, though I love them and like live and breathe them, are awful and have always been awful. And so maybe 75% through the season, I no longer care. Because why am I invested? They have no shot. And they never had a shot. But yeah.
And I feel that also like a problem that OWL has had like historically is how do we keep like the audiences invested throughout the year? You know what I mean? Like, because I feel that like, I mean, you can follow like Florida Mayhem players like out elsewhere, like on their social media or streams and whatever. Or Blizzard has a hard time making people always engage with OWL as an institution. You know what I mean? So absolutely. I feel that they're trying to do that as well. You know what I mean? It's not that you can't be in touch with like Overwatch content, but you have to be engaged with the league specifically. You know what I mean? So I feel that this is also moving that direction.
Yeah.
I totally agree because at this point, so OWL's going into its 3rd season. The first season did very well in terms of viewership. Second season did pretty well too. But they've already proved the concept. It's obvious that this will work because they've been doing very well for 2 years.
The mid-season tournament?
No, like the OWL structure.
Okay.
The problem that they had was kind of lags in viewership through the season. So now it's like, okay, we know that it's going to work. We no longer have fear that the whole league is going to just fall apart because that was always a concern. Now our main priority is to stabilize viewership. And I think that you're right that this is one of the ways to do that. I want to transition to Leia's question.
So Leia asks, Play Scholar. You know, the problem is what happens if somebody comes in the stream and they're not someone part of us, and we're referring to half the people in chat by their names. They might feel like they're not invited to ask questions. So money legitimizes competition. Is that the only thing that legitimizes it? I think money does legitimize competition to some degree because it acts as a indicator of the level of the competition. So if like I'm going to return to Smash, which we watched last week. If you have the Smash tournament with like the biggest prize pool, let's say, is most likely to entice the most players and the most skilled players to come. Whereas a competition with little prize pool is less likely to entice the best players, and thus there's less potential legitimization of the victor as being the best. It's like, well, this tournament only gave out $10. So like, are you really the best? I mean, you're the best of anyone who entered this tournament, maybe, but this wasn't enough. So the mid-season tournament can act like that in the case of an open tournament format. But in terms of a mid-season tournament, and it's interesting because the NBA is doing the same thing or is proposing the same kind of mid-season tournament. They're betting that the money just acts as a tool for helping legitimize what is otherwise a perhaps meaningless competition. Which is why they dropped this big money bag. They're like, right, this is legitimate when they drop this big money bag. But there are definitely other things that legitimize the meanings of outcomes of competition. Who is the best? Following a storyline like this team has always sucked, but this might be the season where they prove that they are great, right? There's lots of different ways that meaning can be constructed around the outcomes of games and legitimize the outcomes, but money acts as probably an easy shorthand for Blizzard to say, no, this mid-season tournament, it's not meaningless part of All-Star Weekend. It is legitimate competition because of the massive prize pool. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was I was going to mention. Like they tried different stuff before. Like they had like this thing where they got like the best players, like and assembled like teams like with players from different like
like the All-Star teams.
Yeah, the All-Star team. So this was like, but the All-Star event was like very specific.
Yes.
It's just for
so
like
fun.
put people together and have fun. Like the casters were like
that was
involved.
amazing. Yes.
You know, like it was so much. It was like pure entertainment.
Yeah, it's
And
it's
like,
not legitimate. The outcome that has no meaning. Outside, it's just entertainment.
And I would say that like maybe for some teams it depends of like in terms of like investment. I don't know how big of a deal $1 million is. You know what I mean? Because there are some teams that are getting like big like venture capital investments. So I feel like okay, it's not like just for fun.
I have a thing
But at the
say.
same time, calm down, man.
I know. I have an idea. I have a
but
thought.
at the same time, like, how big of a deal? How is this an actual prize that's gonna make a significant difference in the path that those teams take, or is more of a token? You know what I mean?
I think it's significant, but go ahead.
Okay.
I think it's significant, and it really depends on does it go to the team and the team organization, or does it go to the players?
Oh, okay.
Because the teams are getting big venture capital investment. That does not speak to the quality of life of the players.
Exactly.
It does in
That's
some
for sure.
cases. Some teams are very open about like what facilities they live in and what their time is like, and they're very open, and others are not. And so there's no way for us to really gauge like how this money is being allocated. But you're right. There are millions and millions of dollars getting churned into these teams, especially now that they all have to have like fancy facilities all around the world.
The way I look at it is that the check is written out to the players, and that is a likely possibility.
I would assume so.
Then the outcome is very meaningful because
Yes.
these players aren't necessarily they're not necessarily like that could be their yearly salary equal to right like the amount they won just from this. Here's what I'll say about the mid-season tournament, like my last thing, and then I kind of want to go to the bathroom. The NBA is toying around with this, and I read about how the NBA is hoping to do this for their next season. And the NBA's idea was similar, that every player on the team gets a big boost in money, which obviously matters a lot more for the non-star players than the star players, which helps make the tournament more meaningful in a certain way, right? It's like, yeah, maybe Giannis and Antetokounmpo or Dwayne Wade Dwayne Wade's retired, but LeBron aren't going to be playing much in this midseason tournament but all those other players are going to be playing their heart out, so their games should still be meaningful and good.
Absolutely.
But also, the proposal that I read suggested like the entire NBA be involved in the mid-season tournament. Like it's like every team is playing in this tournament, and then so that way, the reason why I think that would be better for Overwatch League is because of exactly what you just described a little bit ago. The Florida Mayhem. They're out of the game. Like, oh, it's too bad. But suddenly you have a tournament where like it's just one game, right? Like, let's say it's everyone's just playing like Push the Payload or something, right? The same map or something like that. Suddenly it's like, well, Florida Mayhem's really good at Push the Payload, or maybe we can just how far can we get in the tournament? Something you want to watch because yes, the outcome of their league play no longer matters because they're so far removed from the highest echelons of competition. But perhaps, well, in a tournament, it doesn't matter what your record was before or after.
Right.
All that matters is how well you play today. And that creates a sense of excitement in the viewer. And that's exactly what we were talking about last week with why tournaments are exciting. It's because every match can feel meaningful when it's the difference between winning and losing can be like out of the tournament or continuing on.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, like it's gonna be a very short tournament, it's just 4 teams.
Yeah.
So every game
So
actually
4
matter.
games basically.
Yeah. And I didn't understand the idea of the wild card team. How's that gonna work? Like
Maybe there'll be some sort of mid-season tournament to determine who gets into the mid-season
I
tournament.
it could be that. It could also just be depending on like team standings at the time, and they just kind of pick a wild card like they would in like hockey, for example, where they just kind of depending on the local standings within the region, they say you need to have X amount for the wild card, and then they vie for it.
But the interesting thing about the so you're saying like okay, so if you're above 50%, you get a chance at getting to the wild card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's a specific range that would be a wild card.
so it's like really wild. It's like it can be like
I mean, it just depends.
The thing we definitely know is that it's not just going to be the second place team in those conferences, right?
Okay.
Because if it was, they would have just said second place team, not a wild card. Because a wild card infers that there's a chance that a team that isn't the second best may be there, right? I'm going to the bathroom, but talk about whatever you want. I don't run this show.
Yeah, we can move on to the next.
Yeah, do you want to move on to the next thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so
But we really want to. I really want to talk about the actual
the
travel?
the weekend, like
Yes.
those last games, because I have like some.
Yeah, I do too. I have a bunch of the videos pulled up.
Yeah. Okay.
This I feel like just makes sense. This is just a logical distribution. What I like about it is that it makes it very easy to keep track of who's going where, and it kind of gives me a logical framework for who is flying where and why, as opposed to what it was like when they were still talking about this new shift, where it's like now we're gonna go to home stands and everybody's got a home city.
Yeah.
Goodbye, and then we didn't hear from them for months.
Yeah.
And now it's like no, it's fine. We've broken things up into conferences and divisions, and so it seems like they're just adopting more kind of traditional, tried and true sports formats.
Yeah, like I feel that they have to come up with some way to make the player's life bearable. I'm not gonna say even like easy, but bearable. You know, like this is a nice way to do so. Even if we put into account the hero pools, which is something that is gonna be. Which is gonna have an impact as well, because like, as far as I know, like the hero pools are gonna come up like at the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
So teams and players are gonna they will have to adjust quickly in order to be able to play on the next weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you have to fly across the fucking planet in order to get to like play 2 matches, like those hours count, you know what I mean? Like
They
it
really
is not
do.
that like the teams afford to buy a fucking Boeing 747 and just like rip the whole thing apart and build like a training facility on the plane.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
so I feel that like it's important for teams to be mindful about how much each one of them will be able to fly, and how this is gonna impact like the training routine. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Especially when you have the hero pools.
Yep.
On the
Get out of here.
as a different variable.
Yes. And so what I pulled up here, I found this a few weeks ago, and it's
That's
just
awesome.
someone totaled how many miles each team is going to have to fly with the new schedule. So, my boys, they have an easy season. Only 30,000 miles. It's fine. So, what's interesting about this is just how high
Oh my god.
it is for others.
Oh, many.
So, almost 80,000 miles for London, and sure, that's because England is, like, removed from a lot of things. But, wow. So, I wonder, in terms of, like, how players are going to deal with this, because that's a lot, man.
Yeah.
Like from Wisconsin to New York is like 900, so that's like
Exactly.
40 round trips.
Remember that they're taking airplanes though.
No, I know,
but
but I'm just saying that.
I mean,
The
from
distance
South
of
Florida
travel.
to here, it's like a 1400.
isn't this to some degree? This is. Go ahead.
the problem is not just like the sheer amount of miles, but the problem for me is the difference between the first one and the last one.
76,000.
76 to
Thank you for hanging
21.
out, Play Scholar.
See, so this for me is like the problem. Like,
Yeah.
one team's gonna have to like travel a lot, and
Yep.
the other one's not gonna have to.
Mm.
He's gonna have to travel a lot as well, but not as much.
Yeah.
So I don't know how impactful this is.
Yeah. I don't know how impactful it is, but my argument for this, or rather just in defense of this system, is this is the consequences of making a geolocated league,
Mhm.
right? Like some teams are going to have to travel. Like if you
Yeah.
think about the history of the NBA, right? Like there was a time where like everything was on like the East Coast and we were just like bust everywhere, right?
Mhm.
Like there was consequences to being the team that was located in Miami, having to drive up to the northern East Coast where most of the teams were.
Yep.
And I think that yes, it stinks to be London, though. To be fair, last year every game was in like LA, right? Or most games were in LA,
Yeah.
and London just never played at home,
No,
right?
Well, they all lived in LA.
Yeah, and they might still continue to live in LA. So like these numbers might be related to imagining that they're traveling to each homestead from London, but it's unlikely that is the case, right?
Yeah, a
So-
lot of it is going to be because everybody now has like their own facilities in their city, wherever that place is. So somewhere
Okay.
in London, the London Spitfire have a place that they all live, and a place that they train.
But not
Oh, that's
necessarily in
actually
London.
interesting.
But
But
they
not
can-
necessarily in London.
Okay.
Somewhere in the UK.
Okay.
I think
In
it's,
the
I think
UK?
it's in London. I would
Really?
assume it's in London. The one in the Florida Mayhem are centered in Sunrise because they're like the only one that's a state team instead of a city team. Washington is in DC. Yeah, pretty much everybody's like in the city that they're
Okay,
in.
that
Wait.
makes sense because this was one of the questions that I'm gonna.
How did we
Yes.
get to the homesteads? We were talking about conferences. You guys skipped a bunch of things. Anyways, okay,
We
keep going.
played 5 seconds of video.
We did. We did a literal 5 seconds of
This is
video.
this is like football style of like how long, like the video is, a minute and 16. We're gonna be here till 5 o'clock.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
No, that's
Like my point is, I feel that like one of the big challenges is gonna be like how to build community audiences, like
Mhm.
because this is a problem. Like I mean, how do you, as a corporation, like the teams and Blizzard as well? I mean, I feel that they have to play a part in this. How do you build a community in Miami? You know what I mean? Like, how do you do this? Like watch parties? Like,
Yeah.
it needs to have like some footwork, like
Yeah.
some groundwork.
For sure.
And I have no idea how they're gonna pull this
Yeah.
off.
Now, I want to extend that a little bit. One way you can accomplish that is that by this,
Sure.
Yep.
which is divisions. Divisions might seem initially kind of to be a hokey and arbitrary way of defining play, but they can become extremely important for helping create the kinds of narratives that people want, are people that keep people coming back to sports leagues. So, for instance, I'm a Lions fan. The Lions will, who they play each year in the grand 32 teams of the NFL is always going to be shifting. But every season, they'll play the Packers twice, the Bears twice, and the Vikings twice. You know what that means? Hate them, right? Like I'm now much more invested. Even if we suck, if we beat the Packers, I'm fucking on cloud nine,
I mean,
right?
absolutely. Same deal. Blackhawks meet the Blues. I'm having a good day.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah,
It's just
Wow.
these deep-seated rivalries.
Yeah, it's and so dividing a league into divisions helps create investment because suddenly, let's say I'm this team's the Spark. Let's say I'm a big Spark fan and thus I hate the Tigers. When the Spark, this again helps create meaningful outcomes. It's late in the season. The Tigers have already locked up. I don't know.
Dynasty.
Yeah, those are the Tigers.
Tigers.
I thought there was a. These are is there a team called the Tigers?
No.
No, the Pandas.
No, Hunters.
Nope.
Hunters, Spark,
Charge.
Dragons,
Soul Dynasty.
lame name. Tigers is cooler. No wonder I hate them so much already, right? So the Spark are playing the Tigers.
Opportunity.
So the Spark are playing the Dynasty, right? And it's late in the season, the Spark are out of the playoffs or whatever. But I am still, there's still a possible legitimate outcome there. Or, I'm invested in the outcome of the game and I want to watch it because I want to see my team play against their rival.
Yep.
Yeah.
And these kinds of divisions, assuming that they are not... Because some leagues do this better and worse. So the NFL, it matters so much because there's only 16 games, and you're gonna play 6 games against your division rivals. So you really learn, like you play them twice a year. Like you really one game at home, one game away. Whereas you play in another, like you're very unlikely to play other games. In the NBA, you just play like all the other teams a lot.
Everyone.
Like you play because there's 82 games in a season. So like the games against your divisional rivals matter very little, especially because in the playoff standings, it doesn't really matter if you won your division in the NFL or in the NBA because it matters what you're seeing in the conferences. So I'm hoping that like 1 and 2 are the division winners. So it doesn't matter if like I know that this sounds maybe, but if the Valiant are like, let's say they're, I don't know how many games in a season, but let's say they're 20-5, okay? And the Dynasty are 21-4, okay? They're like, and that's 1 and 2. It doesn't matter that this team was also 21-4, right? Like they're still below this team because they lost their division, right? Making the outcome of the division matter, I think, can greatly impact. Like then you really care about who's in your division. Like it doesn't matter if the whole division sucks because the winner still was the number 2 seed, right? And that can really impact meaning, I think.
I think so, and this produces like a much more robust kind of way to talk about the game and a way to talk about the league and the kind of progression of teams actually playing through the season. It lets us talk about things like, okay, so we can look at specific sections and say the Northern Division is doing this, right? And you can analyze them in that section. One of the problems with talking about Overwatch League and kind of like just studying it in general is that it's massive. There is like not enough time in the world for you to watch every single Overwatch League match, nor should you.
Yeah.
But there's just not enough time.
Yeah.
But this gives us maybe a more organized way to see kind of what is happening in certain regions and kind of how play is changing across regions.
Yeah. But at the same time, it can create like a power difference. For example, the Pacific West division holds the 2 better teams. Like I mean the 2 like former like playoff competitors, like the San Francisco Shock and the Titans, like fought each other last year for the title of 2019. So they are together in the same division. So and for example, like just looking at like briefly, you can see that there are like weaker and like.
But there will always be that, right? Like to this year, the Pacific West is the worst division, really but next year the South Division might be better. The point is that if these, like, you want to mix, I think to some degree, the potential stochastic contingency of like the randomness.
Someone's been editing his Thomas P.
No. No. You want to, like, you want to have the best teams have preferred outcomes in the end, right? But I think that some amount of contrived arbitrariness can go a long way towards helping define team identities, division identities, and things of this nature. Like in the NFL, like very often be like, this division's really strong. The winner of this division is going to win the NFL this year, or win the Super Bowl because. But then the question can be boiled down to beating your division or something like that. It also, I think it helps again just with what Janelle was talking about. Like, yeah, you're a Florida Mayhem fan, right? They're in the South. It'll be Atlantic South. Maybe you can't say, well, we're the best team, but maybe you can say, well, our team beat the. What is
the
this?
only team we're going to beat is the Justice.
Okay, but we're not the worst in our division, right? Like you have a different metric for analyzing success. Like we're always going to beat the Washington, but now we're only 1 game behind the Hawks. Maybe we'll be above the Hawks by the end of the season.
Hawks?
That's the Atlanta basketball team. I don't know. I assume this is the Atlanta team right here.
That is the Atlanta team.
It looks like a Hawk. Is it the Phoenixes?
What would you say the team
Rain.
is?
Atlanta Rain.
It's the
Rain.
Sorry.
Yeah, rain. It's raining on me today. I know it's rain. I don't see other rain.
Oh my
I like
God.
that 40% of this stream is just shitting on team names.
All right, let's just go over here. So we got the Pandas,
We're
Hunters.
together in the South Division now. Now I'm an Outlaws fan.
You're an Outlaws fan? Alright.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
Jake is weird as a caster
Can I
now.
side
I
note
want
to
to talk
someone
about
who does
Jake as
not
well.
know what the logos are?
Wait, what?
I said I don't know the team logos.
Oh,
for
we
each
can
other.
play a game.
So I could just like
Oh,
assign
this is
names.
a good.
Awesome.
All right,
Please,
assign names to each
This is
one.
good.
So,
We've
like
got pumpkin pandas,
Pumpkin Pandas,
easy Jeezys,
Easy Jeezys,
pink fire,
Pink Fire,
super snake.
Super Snake.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna stick with tiger for that.
I
One.
think
Yeah.
that's
I can't see what's that. I'm gonna just call it blue fire.
good. Yeah.
Thor wannabes.
Okay.
What's that? Purple bears? They're purple bears.
It's a lion.
Yeah, they're the purple bears now.
I can't see from here. We got San Francisco Star Wars because it kind of looks like the...
That's right.
Let's see if I can. See
Oh
if,
my God.
Yeah, I can't get the play bar to go away while it's
Yeah.
not playing. But anyways,
I can't tell right now. Green Hulk. I can't tell.
Green Hulk.
Then up the top we've got like Bee Shield. I'm running out of steam because I can't. It's hard to see from here.
It says
It's
London if that matters to
And
you.
it's a plane.
It looks kind of like a plane, but
Okay.
It's a plane.
Fuck England. We got
That's the team name?
Yeah, fuck England. Blue pattern.
Yeah.
Graphic design is my passion. Because that's the worst color combo. Arrow.
Arrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Team Valor. Magneto. Green Star. Black Panther. And America.
Yeah.
America.
America.
you got none of them right and all of them right.
Correct.
Yeah.
100%. I like
we
Magneto.
should like
As
send
an
this to
alternate name.
Blizzard, like
Mhm.
rebrand your shit.
Oh, actually, that was really fantastic.
Yeah, no, that
Okay.
was very
I'm
good.
interested
That
in
was
my
very good.
ability to name these because I'm somebody who has
Uh-huh.
tangentially followed the league but only watched a couple of games. So I thought they were the Panders. The Hunters. Guangzhou, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So Guangzhou, known for tech industry and their textile industry, but I have no clue. What is the Guangzhou team?
The Charge.
The Charge,
They've got a
alright.
little lightning bolt.
I know the
between
next
the
one is the Huangzhou or
Mhm.
Yangzhou or Huangzhou Spark. I know
Yes.
them because they're like one of the newer teams.
Yes.
And the pink is so fucking dope.
I
You got the
know, it's
Shanghai
so good.
Dragons, who evidently sucked last year.
They
Probably.
sure did.
Then you got the
I
Seoul
have a reason for
Dynasty.
that. You know
Yeah.
why they sucked? Because they signed Kaguri and then never played her.
That's right.
And the next one, I see the San Francisco Shock and the LA Valiant. And LA is a different team. I think that's the one to the left of the Valiant, right?
Mm-mm.
So I don't know purple, and I don't know are they the Yetis?
Yes.
No.
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 Vancouver
To be
Titans.
fair, a lot of these teams
Vancouver
changed
Titans, okay.
their colors between last season and this
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So,
season.
that,
So
that
they
should
might
make it
all
harder.
look different.
So what's purple there? That's like
LA
the Pride
Gladiators.
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 Okay. And what's that one to the far left?
Dallas Fuel.
Dallas Fuel. I did know the Dallas Fuel because that's the one that whatchamacallit was on. Very famous streamer.
That's QC.
Well, actually, yes. Seagull.
Yes.
All right. So then we've got
Seagull's
the
awesome.
Boston Uprising, right? The London Spitfire, the New York Excelsiors,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the. That's a chicken. I know that's a
It is
chicken.
a chicken.
Yeah, it's a clue actually. If you know your shit.
How the fuck is that a clue?
Really?
Yeah, I don't know my shit, obviously.
Okay, so this is the Atlantic North Division, and we've got maybe it's a team from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so if it's a chicken, it's French.
Yes.
Paris.
Yeah,
Does
how
Paris
the
have a
It's
team?
the symbol like of
Are you
the country.
serious?
Yeah.
Of France?
Yeah.
The chicken?
Yeah. Not
So-
a chicken. Like
So that is Paris. Is it the Eternal?
Paris Eternal.
Yes, Paris
yeah.
Eternal.
Paris
Yeah.
Eternal, and then I don't know what this D is at
It's
all.
a Toronto Defiant.
Toronto
Who
Defiant. I
actually
actually
looked really good this season.
Yeah.
All right.
And
I mean, they have shore for so.
they have Surefour, they have what's
Surefour.
his name? He was on the Mayhem and
What's
he was
his
the
name?
only good player.
What team is Ryu Jae-hong on?
Is
He moved.
Still? No, he moved.
He wore Dynasty, but now I saw him play yesterday.
Because he plays my favorite
Um,
character in the game, Ana, very
I'll
well.
A
find
lot of
out.
people play Ana.
And then we've got Atlanta Reign, Florida Mayhem, Houston Outlaws, Philadelphia Fusion, right?
Yes.
And then the Washington, they're not the Nationals. That's the
Mm-mm.
name of the baseball team. Washington
Justice.
Justice. Oh my, Nationals Justice.
Oh, he's on the
Fuck you,
Titans.
Washington.
That is.
Fisher. There's gonna be a
Yeah. Yeah, the
interesting
Titans are gonna.
combination. But yeah, every time you see like a chicken, it's French stuff. So
Mm-hmm. So let's.
Alright.
So
The more you know.
yeah.
I have just some comments on the other things. I don't know if anyone
Yeah.
else cares.
It's really the homestands that I want to.
Yeah.
I wanna
All
talk
right.
about.
So the first 3 map format. All I want to say about this, as somebody who passively watched some Overwatch League, I felt like it really impacted, like again, legitimized outcomes. When I felt like a team, like because they would play 4 maps, and if you won 3, you still had to play the 4th.
Yep. And,
And so it was
such
like-
a waste of time.
Yeah, I felt like it, to me, like I was like, I don't care. Like I know that it matters, and like the grand scheme of like how many maps you won over the course of the whole season, but it felt like kind of It's like, imagine if like the Bucks had to play the Bulls 4 times in a row. Like, it's fine if the Bucks they play them 4 times in a season, but spacing those out helps make it better and more meaningful. And it just felt like it's like they were just trying to stuff more content in that wasn't necessary. So I like the first to 3. I think that makes sense. It still offers the possibility for a tie, right? Because you can still go 2-2.
Yeah.
But if you win 3, you go 3-0. I don't know how it's going to work for the.
If you win 3 in a row, then it's just 3-0.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's over.
So yeah, so it's but in theory then. This is where it gets a little weird, a little wonky, right? Different teams will play different number of games over the course of the season then. The games played will be different. Like their series wins will be the same. They'll play the same amount of series, but the amount of games will be different. But that's fine, because if you look at like the NBA, you're playing the playoffs, right? Some games could win a best of 7 series in 4 games, others might win it in 7.
Yeah.
So the amount of games you play in the playoffs can be different.
We have to understand how map differential is going to play a part here.
Yes.
Because it's not clear. But for me, this is not even the biggest change. For me, like the most important change on this, like no, don't keep it there.
Oh, okay.
It's
I thought
like
you wanted the changing.
The matches always start with a control map. This is so important because like when you have the control map, it's I mean, some like this is very debatable like on the community, but like people feel that teams that are like on the offense, they usually have an upper hand than teams that are on the defense. So when you have control maps, you get
There's no
like
offense or defense.
Yeah, so like it's usually like the first team that gets the offense kind of builds up momentum and they carry like the game. It's not like it's not like all the time, but like beginning with control, I guess, gives like a fair like.
It's like a safe opening.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Oh, it's just like it's an even match.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
No one's gonna have the upper hand, because I would totally agree. As both like a kind of crappy player and someone that watches a lot of Overwatch League, there is totally an advantage. If you have the offensive strike first, it is way more likely that you're gonna take the round.
Yeah.
What's this?
Legitimized outcomes, right? Like that's what all 3 of these first things are. It's trying to like whether they're changing something just for like whatever reason with the midseason tournament. I don't know exactly what's going on there. But like in terms of removing the stage playoffs, that seems a little complicated. But the way they sold it with $1 million, trying to legitimize this change. The division's trying to legitimize later games in the season, trying to legitimize rivalries, etc. like that. First to 3, start making sure it always starts with a control is a way of trying to kind of trying to say like, we know that the most legitimate outcome comes from the control game, so we'll start with those. Yeah. Because like, you could argue that like let's say they were the last game in the best of 4 and one team didn't get to say it, maybe the outcome would be less legitimate because like a fan could say, well, we didn't play on even footing, right? Or like to some degree.
Yeah, for sure.
So the big change, Paris.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Biggest change.
Yes.
So I'm excited about this. I'm also really nervous about it. Mostly because I'm concerned about how players are going to be able to cope with it. It's a lot of travel. So, Daniel, I know that you've been dying to talk about this. I'm going to pull up real quick the actual schedule.
Yeah.
So that we have a better sense of just how much is happening.
But like before we go to like the player problem, there's a different problem as well. Like it's part of this problem actually, but like like players first. Always like I feel that they should be the ones that the league structure should be always designed around players in terms of like
27.
Okay.
In terms of like keeping them on a like healthy like environment.
Now I really want to know how my team is doing. I didn't watch these part games. Go ahead, continue.
But at the same time, there is a big problem with production. How do you ensure quality of production and delivery when you don't have like the same venues all the time? When you don't have like the same structure? Like this was so clear during this first weekend. Like the stage that people assembled in New York were completely different from the one in Arlington. It's so different. It's so different. Like
it is totally different.
Even like the light, like how they were like putting light on the players or the casters, like it's completely. It feels like
Wow.
a different.
Yeah, I mean, on day 2,
broadcast.
the casters were like in the dark.
Yeah.
I'm surprised almost.
Why?
I just think sometimes you can be a little structuralist in your approach. Because if you look at any traditional sport, like football or soccer, well, we're playing in a different country, different weather, different climate, different time of day, the sun's in my eyes. Like, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but you could control the lighting. That's just poor production.
no.
I don't know that it's poor production, because I think of something that's indoors, right? Like, it doesn't have the kind of, like, sun, wind factor.
Home field advantage, there's still so much.
But think of, like, NHL, right? The production value in different NHL broadcasts is just different. Like, it just is.
Hockey, right?
NHL is hockey, yeah. So, for example, it is the responsibility of the venues to up their production capacity to meet the needs of whatever is being hosted there. So,
That's
like,
right.
the United Center in Chicago, where the Chicago Blackhawks are playing, just spent, like, a ton of money redoing their entire stadium so that it now matches the broadcasting capabilities of other places and then surpasses others.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, to the conversation earlier about, like, corporate responsibility, that is the venue's responsibility because they agreed to host this.
The venue, like the team, like the host team.
I would say Esports Stadium Arlington is responsible for making sure that they are capable of meeting the demands of whatever Overwatch League is doing.
But that's the thing, like as far as I know, like Dallas Fuel, like Esports Stadium Arlington is just like the venue that Dallas Fuel booked. Like they could book whatever, like go
They can
like
book anywhere.
to New York. They booked
Hammerstein
Ballroom.
Yeah,
It's
which
not
was
even
like-
like a esports
It was
thing.
like amazing though.
But I have no idea what I mean. But the point is like, it's not that they are like, I don't know what it is.
I'm just showing that
places,
there's lots of different venues. That's
but
all
like
I'm doing.
it's, I feel that like the host team have this like because they are the hosts, like.
Yes. So you mean that they need to make sure that it's good for the other teams that are visiting?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
also for
that's it.
themselves. Like, I mean, if I booked like UWM's stadium or whatever, like I have to provide or like I have to rent from the UWM or whatever.
Yes.
I mean, I mean, by the end of the day, I feel that like the host team has to be aware of like, is this place that I'm booking capable of delivering the quality that we need?
Yeah.
Like because if not, I'm gonna look somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I feel that like this is a decision made by the host team.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but I think that one of the beauties of having a geolocated sports teams rather than like other things are the challenges and possibilities that come from the fact that you're playing in different places, right? Like the fact that the Guangzhou Charge, when they play, they're going to play 2 games at home, right, against the Hangzhou Spark and the Seoul Dynasty, right?
Tigers.
And like this is a home game for them, and presumably the fans in Guangzhou are going to come out more and be cheering them on. There's going to be more energy for them in the room.
Yeah.
Like,
And
and
that
maybe
happened
they
in
play
the
more,
US.
right? And the Guangzhou Charge play more games in their thing than the other teams do. So they get out, they get a little bit like, oh, we know what the lighting is like in the Foshan International Sports and Culture Arena. We know what it's like to be in the locker room. We have the familiarity, right? We gain like a little bit of an advantage because we're home. That's what Overwatch League wants, right? They want each team to feel like we're home. That's good for us, and they want the fans to feel like I need to go out and cheer. Like that's a big thing in the NFL. Like home team has a big advantage, and the reason why is that when the basically what happens in the NFL is when the offense is on the team, they need to communicate a lot more. And so if you're the home team, you're very like the crowd will be very quiet during that part because the players want to talk to you on the field. But when the other team's offense is on the field, the crowd is trying to be really loud to disrupt the players. They're often called the 12th man on the field.
Yep.
And like if you're able to sell that kind of experience, you are the 7th player on the Hangzhou Spark. You are the 7th player on the Houston Outlaws when you show up at the stadium and you're cheering on and you're distracting the other team, right?
And that's happening. Like that happened like this past weekend.
That's
you know
what
I
they
mean? Like,
want, even if it's not
Yeah.
maybe fair or equal.
But that's not my point. My point is like providing minimal
Yeah.
structure.
The minimal structure
for the
we can
game
agree
to
on.
be played,
Yeah.
you know,
Like, right, you need a
and we
locker
are-
room, right? Like, you
and
can't
we
say,
are-
like...
and this is the kind of thing that we are lacking. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
even in a broadcast standard, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like even like as
They're
someone that
building an
is
arena for
expectating-
this?
I wanted to.
But only 50 million, that's not...
It's something that
Yeah.
we as like spectators, we can like so clearly see when like, okay, so now we are in the New York broadcast because it's so much better than the one that was happening in Dallas, for example.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is the kind of thing that shouldn't happen because like it's the basic stuff.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. I feel that like being at home,
Mhm.
it's completely different. Like and it should feel different because it gives like personality
But
and
basic
like.
necessities should
But
be
the
met.
basic stuff is like, I mean,
Mhm.
people are broadcasting sports for how long? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
not. It's not like we are not like reinventing the wheel.
Yeah,
Yes.
that way, you know?
definitely.
Sometimes we are reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
I wanted to. I put this up to kind of talk about what you guys are saying. I think that you're right that this is kind of what Blizzard wants. Ideally, every team will have one of these, an arena in
It's
their
worth-
home
yeah.
city.
As we're noting that 50 million is obviously way less than like the billion that you're looking at for often for like an NFL franchise or an
Absolutely.
NBA stadium. They're often reaching around $1 billion. And so 50 million, it actually seems kind of like a bargain almost. Now I know that it's a lot smaller. And you can see, oh, that's really neat.
Yeah,
like it's
they've-
right in between, right?
All
The
the other
76ers,
sports.
which is the basketball
wild.
team, the Phillies, the baseball team, and the Eagles,
And the
thing.
Flyers, the
and,
hockey team.
And the, oh yeah. Wow, that's just,
Yeah,
that's
it's,
wild.
It's all of the Philadelphia sports.
Mhm.
Wow.
And so what's kind of cool about this is that it forces that kind of like city-based or nation-based kind of pride that Rhino was talking about during his presentation last week.
Yeah.
So that was last week, right? Yes.
That was
Okay.
Friday.
So this has never really been an opportunity for them because everybody's been based in LA and they've all lived there and they've all played in the same exact arena.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's this kind of push for how do we generate this hometown energy that teams like Dallas already have. Like all the teams that hosted a homestand last season, there were like what, 4 of them or something?
Yeah, I guess.
There were a handful of them. Those homestands from last season functioned like as a proof of concept for this next season,
Yeah.
where it's like we can generate this crazy hometown crowd regardless of where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is kind of like maybe the long-term goal for all of these teams to kind of insert themselves into local culture in this way and to say we are just as valid a sports team as all of these other ones.
Mm-hmm. And these act as really crucial. If you're thinking about it, who owns the Fusion? Is it the same people in the 76ers?
I don't know. It's a really good question. I can find out.
Yeah, I would love if you looked that up. But let's say well, we go with the Boston Uprising because they're owned by the New England Patriots, an NFL team. Let's say you're like looking to get in the esports game. It's important to you that you aren't just like, oh yeah, we have an Overwatch League team, but now we have this esports arena. We can host other esports events here, and it's even if the Overwatch League fails, we have this infrastructure for possibly the thing that comes after Overwatch, assuming that esports continue to exist and stuff. So like I imagine like something like, let's say there's suddenly a big Street Fighter tournament at the Fusion Arena because it's not going to be used every weekend, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
so like this offers a potential, and then that's good for the city of Philly. It's good for creating this thing. But I think the biggest thing to me,
They used to own it and then they sold it.
to whom?
Joshua Harris.
One guy.
I assume that
Oh,
one guy
they never.
owns
The 76ers never owned.
This guy.
some author.
That's probably the wrong Joshua here.
I would.
I mean, maybe.
I don't know.
He's
These all
only-
seem pretty consistent.
The guy who kissed I Kissed Dating Goodbye, which is one of the worst books ever. Like, get off this page. Just get off of it. Just, I Kissed Dating Goodbye sucks. Okay, anyways. Sorry. It's Christian subculture shit. The big thing I think is, like, I bet you in terms of Blizzard's own internal metrics and in terms of just I think what we call traditional sports 101, someone who goes to a live event is way more likely to have a sense of investment in the team, right? Than like that's probably like one of the biggest like factors that you can like contribute, like right?
Yeah.
And it's like because people like it's it's a little spirit of the gamey, even though I don't use that term anymore because it's invalid. But like it's like you go to like a 76ers game, you sit in the the rows with like your dad and you remember that moment, that time you went there. That's like that place becomes in some degree like a little sacred to you because it houses a memory.
Exactly.
Right? And suddenly if you have this memory of like I went with my friends, we went to the Fusion Arena, we saw the Fusion play live. Suddenly next week you're so much more invested in what happens with the Fusion because it's like it's ingrained in part of your identity, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to just like, well, I guess I'm a fan of the, Hangzhou Sparks because they're pink. Right, like
Yes.
I think do I really care?
And at the same time, like I don't remember, like someone was like one of the like casters or whatever, like because there was a big fuzz around the Overwatch League in the off season, and someone said like one of the things about the homestands that the homestands are not just gonna be like you go there, you watch the game, and it's over. It's gonna be a whole experience hosted by the home team. So you go there and then you have like cosplayers, like professional cosplayers. You have like I don't know, like VR. I don't know, like whatever
you might have,
shit.
you might have a meet and greet with the players. Where, like, you can come and they'll sign like your shoes or whatever.
Or you
like
can
they
buy
do in the
gear
It's
NBA.
an
Yeah.
amazing opportunity for those teams to build their brands around
Yes.
those experiences as well. You know what I mean? Like, and this is awesome because you get to meet your player, you get to do whatever. You know what I mean? And then you feel more likely to buy a new like jersey or to buy a whatever, a hat. I don't know. And also like all the equipment, all the thing were redesigned specifically for this season. They hired some guy.
Some guy named
that's, like,
Staple. I don't know who it is.
apparently he's famous. I don't know, but like he's like a streetwear guy that like they hired to redesign the whole uniform. So it's not just like a T-shirt, but it's like it's more fashionable.
Yeah.
So.
And then they can do stuff like this, where they have like their famous players like modeling their gear.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. I have opinions about you.
So I'm very curious about like how those experiences are like gonna be like what is gonna happen during those games, and how like it gives more it makes the teams more protagonists. You know what I mean? Like it makes the teams like they have to step up in terms of like how I'm gonna make this weekend an awesome experience for my audience. You know what I mean? So I feel that this is gonna be something important in the future of the Overwatch League as well.
I think so too. So I don't know if you guys heard about this, but a bunch of matches were canceled in China because of the coronavirus.
Yes.
So there's no telling exactly like what's gonna happen to, for example, this leg of the season, and so that's just like a kind of interesting logistical kind of concern, right? What happens with things like disease, sure, but there have also been a lot of people that have been raising concerns about players' visas, ability to travel, and the actual like ability to go to all of these different places and play and actually perform well. So I don't really know what to do with that. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what you guys might see as like either do you think that this will be like a major problem if these kind of things continue to happen and they cancel matches?
I think that the coronavirus, if we're imagining canceled matches in this case, I would say that this was more, obviously there's always going to be situational adjustments and contingencies that are unplanned, but like I think that this is pretty novel or special as an event. I like typically there are like even when there are major like events like the tsunami that hit Japan like in 2011, like that didn't impact your ability to go to Tokyo. Like you know what I mean? This is a particular event that like the coronavirus and stuff that has like affected travel and public events in China in a really profound way. But like this kind of event doesn't happen very often. So if I would be much more worried if it was like if there was a much more minor thing that happened, like the ballroom got double booked or something in New York,
like the
right?
venue fell
Like that
through.
would suddenly almost delegitimize the league in a sense because it would be like, wow, you're canceling events over such little things. But this doesn't feel like a little thing to me. This feels like yes, this makes sense in our current cultural moment that this would get canceled, right? As like I'm sure all sports games in China are being canceled right now.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that like it's gonna be like exceptions, like an earthquake hit Paris and like the Eiffel Tower came down. You know what I mean? Like half the city is destroyed. You know what I mean? Like
a couple. Oh, go ahead.
this is something that like okay, so it's impossible to host this event in
Yeah.
this moment, but it has to be like massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If some events like being canceled because like they did something wrong with the venue, this is just like being unprofessional.
Yeah.
It's not just a catastrophe.
Yeah.
You know.
A couple of years ago, the Minnesota Vikings, they played in a dome, like so like they played in like a big stadium, but it's like a football stadium. It's like it's really big, but it was they had a cover over the top, and it snowed really bad, and I guess the snow was so heavy
right.
that the roof collapsed.
During
not
the game?
not during a game,
No,
like
no,
just
no.
in the middle of the night, and like. The Vikings had to like delay the game for a couple days because so this will happen in baseball especially the games get fucking
Rain
canceled because of
delay.
rain right so like you can kind of work around those things to some degree. I would be interested right now the games are still all on weekends right
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday,
Saturday.
Sunday.
I want to see like the Overwatch League kind of develop into possibly like becoming more of like a thing where it's like if they're going to be going with these homesteads like and they become more prevalent because excuse me like let's say you're an Atlanta Reign fan, the Atlanta Reign only plays like 2 steads right like over the course of the season. Yeah, you want them to both be on the weekend, but as it develops and let's say by let's say 5 years from now, if the Overwatch League is still going strong, the Reign is hosting 10 homesteads a year.
Yep.
I think moving some of those to being in the middle of the week to help keep broadcast stuff like every day of the week some Overwatch League thing is happening would help with the content fatigue that we've been kind of describing.
And also at the same time, like, I really want to watch the games, but I have stuff to do, you know what I mean? Like, I have to go out and, like, live my life as well.
Yes.
So I feel that at the same time, that it's important also to develop, like, those communities, as I was saying, because, like, I would love to go to, like, a watch party here in Milwaukee to watch whatever Overwatch, just so I have an excuse to, like, go somewhere place and drink beer and, like, watch a game, you know what I mean? Like, because I don't want to spend my whole weekend like just watching by myself. I mean, I could like be on chat and whatever, but like I feel that this is something that can develop as like in more places around America. You know what I mean? Like, well, we don't have any teams in the Midwest, right?
No.
There's not a Chicago team?
Nope. You know what I mean? So this is something, and at the same time, I feel that like the conferences and like how the divisions can work because like it's easier for a fan in one division to follow their team to other games as well. You know what I mean? Like the Atlantic South, so we keep like Florida fans can like
Florida and Georgia are very close.
Exactly. So you can like just take your car and go like to the game the
just go
weekend
if
and
you're
then come back. You know, like it's harder for like Paris because they are very isolated.
Yeah.
It's like you
Well,
have
Paris
like,
and London are pretty close, right?
yeah, but
Take
like
the
it's
two.
much less
Yeah,
affordable.
so not the two, but they do have trains.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Houston.
but it's not super affordable, right?
Maybe with the
Oh,
maybe
yeah?
with the
Okay.
EU stuff, it'll be a little different,
Yeah,
but
Brexit might affect that.
but like still, you
because
know.
it
You
means
still-
breakfast. What?
No, but you could still travel, like, because, like, a tube ride's, like, £5, and
Yeah.
then I remember it being, like, round trip, like, 90 to 150 pounds from
Oh, that's not
Houston
bad.
to Germany, actually. So,
That's
probably
not
Yeah.
bad.
So it's not too different because like remember that like if you were to map America on top of Europe, like America's bigger, like
Yeah.
No,
and
yeah.
so like Florida and Georgia, like there's a substantial. I mean that's probably a bad example. Florida and
But it's closer in relationship to that, like
exactly.
in perspective.
Yeah,
Yes.
London and Paris. You can if you're a Paris fan and they're playing London, you can.
Yeah.
It's reasonable
possible. Yeah,
that you
yeah.
could be able to go there.
Yeah.
Unlike flying across the Atlantic to see a game in
Yes.
New York City or something
Yep.
like that.
But
Yeah.
and that's my point. Like I mean, it's something that you can do like under the banner of your division. You know, what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it makes it easier. I
Yeah.
guess.
It makes it easier for you to identify yourself with like a team or maybe a series of teams, and you can kind of follow whoever among that you're like
Yeah.
interested in knowing.
So, should we watch some games?
Yeah,
I
really.
think we should watch
I,
some games.
I really
Pick whatever
should-
the most interesting one is because
I
we
really
What do you think?
we should watch the introduction of the Dallas and the New York Excel teams. Because
Yeah.
for me that was the highlight. You know, especially like the first NYXL game versus the London Spitfire,
Yes, where is that?
because it was very like interesting how they managed the London introduction and then
full
NYXL.
Oh, you got to skip it. Never
Oh
mind.
yeah.
All right.
No, this is the Dallas Fuel.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, can you switch to the New York?
Yeah.
Alright,
So it's
so
New York and who?
Le-
Oh, here it
London?
is.
It's, all right.
yeah.
There it
yeah,
is.
Yeah.
It's like this is what you're interested in, or what are? So we got a picture of that bridge that's famous.
No, it's not.
One World
It's
Tower.
also-
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what
right?
you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not this specifically.
Well, yeah,
So
it's
can
in-
you pause it like
Here,
super
like
quick?
this is wild.
All right,
Yeah.
so like there's a lot of people
It's
here.
packed. It's like it was sold out.
It was sold out.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good. It should be sold out.
And it's like New York, so I mean,
Mhm.
it's
Ideally, you have a problem with ticket prices if it's
This
not
guy.
sold out. But go ahead.
Yeah. So the first thing is like it's sold out, so like
Mhm.
it's very big. So like pay attention to like how
Crowd
the
seems
venue
really
is
ethnically
structured,
diverse. So
Mhm.
that's good.
how the lighting is working. Like pay attention to like those details so we can compare to like the Dallas
Yes.
hosted event as well.
Spider-Man, you know, New York's friendly neighborhood.
Very good.
That's a
Spider-Man.
night monkey.
Whatever. That's Spider-Man wearing Excelsior colors.
Yeah. Can you like
You want me to skip into the
yeah,
actual...
skip to the moment where
like, where
the
the teams are coming in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, what the fuck is this?
No, they're talking about the players
Yeah.
that departed.
So
no,
here-
a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah,
Go back
so-
a little bit.
Oh, back?
I mean, no one's
Yeah,
on
yeah,
here we
stage
go.
yet.
Stop,
This is-
stop,
this is-
stop,
yeah.
stop, 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 please. Pay attention to like this lame cube, like this like PowerPoint.
This doesn't
Sorry,
float
the
the boat?
GameCube is my favorite console ever.
No, like this. Look at how lame this is. As like, it's just the logo like in a cube, like spinning.
Man, you're so negative.
Like, no, I mean, but like.
Here are all those Londonites, these UK players.
So, and they're booing
Wow.
like, hard.
Get
Yeah, of
wrecked.
course they are.
I'm not,
That's the
I'm not,
experience,
it's just a
right?
fact,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
judging. I'm
No.
just
I know you
stating
are.
a fact.
I know you are. I'm saying it's a good thing that they're booing.
Yeah.
I also gotta say, this group coming out was not nearly as exciting as when Dallas came out, and they had, or was it New York, and they had like a little flag, and they were all like running up and stuff. No? Do you
Now,
remember what-
now the introduction of the New York team.
No, I'm thinking of Dallas. They look too similar.
All right, everything
It's the
fades
same two
out.
colors of blue.
All right, so like obviously New York has prepped this. New York
Yeah.
City.
It's like, wow,
Tilt
we're
shift.
so cool.
I'm in New York. I'm in New York.
Yeah.
Are
He's
you in
New
New
York? Yeah, I'm walking in front of the World Trade Center. You know.
Oh my god.
I'm Jajonik. I don't know how
And
to
the
actually.
uniforms of the Inuma Excel is so good.
I know. They are.
Grand
it makes up for the
Central
Yeah.
honestly
What's the name of that
horrible
bridge,
logo.
Kelly? The
Brooklyn
Brooklyn
Bridge.
Bridge. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so it's really easy to
Even
know.
I know that.
Well, I think I knew it like way in the
Okay.
back, but you know I just.
Look,
Yeah.
like
Look at
they're
these
building
grungy
up,
guys.
Like, this video is like playing at the like stage
Yeah.
as well. Like
Yeah.
they're building up like the thing.
Well,
Okay.
They're building on legacy.
Can I ask you
Yeah.
a question? Have you ever watched an NBA game?
No.
That's okay. Like in NBA and the NFL, they do this.
No,
this
yeah,
kind of
This
it
shit.
is, yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
is just directly remediated from traditional
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do it in soccer or not, but like in NBA, it'll be like, and the other team has LeBron James and Anthony Davis and this guy and this guy, and now for the Milwaukee Bucks, we've got Giannis and Antetokounmpo, like everyone's like, what, we got just black.
Mhm.
Yeah, because the production sucks.
Oh yeah, great.
So it's supposed to be happening.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
So they're like it becomes
Excelsior
like
for
an
extra.
experience, you know,
Mhm.
like so
Yes.
there it's very like and look at the difference between like just like the London Spitfire logo on like the PowerPoint thing
yeah.
and like how they're doing here.
Listen,
you know
I'm
what I
pretty
mean?
sure it
Like-
was a Microsoft screensaver.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
yeah, it was
it's
a
even worse.
It was a purposeful move, right? You know.
I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely.
you know, it's to disrespect.
Look
the
at that.
Spitfire.
This is amazing, man. This is awesome. In
Damn, the
terms-
cube is back.
yeah.
Oh my God, the cube.
In now Persona
Now it's-
5.
Wait, it's Minecraft?
No,
Wait,
it's
Is this
Minecraft.
Overwatch League?
And now like this
Wait,
guy,
the
this
guy-
guy is Pine.
And now
Pine.
we got
Yeah.
this
He
guy,
was like the
Pine.
most like
So
amazing
nice.
DPS
So he's a player though?
Not
And he's
yet.
walking through the
He's
crowd
retired.
carrying
No,
the
he's
flag.
retired. He's retired.
Oh, he's retired.
But he
Okay.
played for the new XL, so he's just there to like to build up more.
Oh, but the players are
Yeah.
walking through the
Yep.
the
Yeah.
crowd. Their hand, like imagine like this moment,
Away
like
team?
you love
Sabiobi.
Sabiobi, and suddenly he
Sabiobi.
reached out and he touched your
Yeah.
fucking hand.
Yeah.
A, you're not watching that for 2 weeks, but B, like now you have this connection to the New York Excelsior.
And look at how awesome like the type work is. Like I love the
Yeah.
design of the NYXL. It's
Yeah,
so
I mean,
amazing.
it's the NYXL had one of the best designs from season 1.
Yeah, that's true.
Most other teams
I
are
hate
pretty
their logo.
bad. The logo's
Pattern,
awful. The
blue
logo is
pattern.
it's a box, and I don't know what to do with it.
It's an X
No, but like
for
it's not the logo in
Excelsior.
itself. You have to see it
Yeah,
in
but
like.
Excelsior is a cursed word for me from New York because there's the Excelsior Scholarship, which isn't a scholarship, which
Yes.
is like indentured servitude.
Yes.
Wow.
Which was my question. I was like, why'd you name your team
No,
that?
I know.
That was something that I was like, why? Do you just want to be sad? You just want all your fans to be like, "Woo." And so in the first match of the second day, where they do this kind of introduction, home team also gets a similar kind of like serenade.
Yeah. Yeah. And now it's.
But I just love how lackluster everyone is walking down there.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
You know, he's smiling.
You try to
Some
get
of them are
through
really excited.
as
So
fast as possible.
So in the Dallas walk up, one guy who plays Ryan had like a big Reinhardt hammer, and he was like valiantly charging down. Like it just depends, yeah.
Everyone
This guy.
loves this guy.
It's
no,
'cause
in
he's
true
the
New York
best.
fashion, just
Yeah,
trying to
he's so
ignore
good.
everyone
He's
on
the
the other
MVP,
side
right?
of you. You just
He
walk
was
in
the
from
MVP
Yes.
from the first
Please.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, he has his own in-game Zenyatta skin.
Nice.
Yeah, just
Because he won the MVP first season, right?
first season, yeah.
And so that way we see
That's
a way in the way
really good.
the game kind of reflects the like real world circumstances.
It is really interesting to think of like playing these different characters in the game, the different heroes, and then looking out in the audience and there's like a solid diva cosplay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's like very weird for them or if they've just kind of gotten used to it at this point.
I don't
The
know.
players,
Yeah.
they're probably very focused on the game. I'd bet. Like this all is cool, but
Sure,
you know,
but they're like, I'm here to win.
yeah.
Now can you like put on
Check
the
out that
Dallas
green
so we can like
Yeah,
them,
compare these guys.
So that's the what's new video. Oh, okay.
I just need to go back here.
like, see how easy it is to like come and go through the
Yeah.
things.
I see it.
Because where's Dallas's first one?
Yeah, it's
That's
not
the
that
only
easy.
thing that I will say is
Yeah,
actually
Dallas Field versus
navigating.
LA Valiant right
Yeah.
there in the
Is
middle.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I don't need your contacts.
Don't buy this because
I
they've
will
disrupted
not,
our
'cause
stream.
They've just ruined my whole day.
So there's gonna be a bunch of conversation right in that early part, so we'll have to skip ahead. Thank God for YouTube preview. Like that's something that isn't on Twitch, right? You can skip ahead to like the actual game.
I'm pretty sure you can't do this on Twitch, yeah.
It doesn't. I think the teams are not already up.
No.
They're
no.
not. I just wanted to show Daniel that Jake is here.
Yeah, Jake is here.
Jake is here.
I want to talk about Jake as well. Like,
What about
What
Jack?
about Jake?
What about Jack?
Look at him.
Check the difference
Look
in the
at him, he's
venue.
so
Like they have to
excited.
walk so much more in this venue compared to the other one. The light is different.
The light is different. The lighting isn't as good here.
The camera placement is different as well. Like,
God, yeah.
can you feel it?
That guy's
If
from
you'd like-
Central
if you'd like
Florida,
to see a bunch of people's heads.
Yeah.
and that's about all you're gonna get.
But it's also it makes a sense of it's bigger, it's more important. The other side was more like intimate. This one is more
That's true.
like
Yeah.
rock star kind
But-
of feeling.
I totally agree with you. Like my only thing is like I feel that they have the challenge to like try to find like a standard of broadcast, you know. So
No. You don't want a standard because that removes the. You want everything to feel as unstandardized as possible. If you're the Overwatch League, because you want every venue to feel different.
No,
you want
but I'm
the
not.
home.
It's standard
right?
in terms of quality. Like the broadcast needs to have
You
like
feel
the
like this
same
is a
kind
lower
of
quality
Here's
than the
what I-
last one? I feel like this is pretty much of the same quality.
I'm so excited to talk about
I'm not-
broadcasting in terms of Twitch because there's so much that goes into learning how to do TV broadcasting and radio broadcasting because they're established mediums at this point.
Yep.
But when it comes to esports, I don't know who they hire. I don't know.
They
Yeah.
hire streamers for the most part.
Yeah.
And the thing about hiring streamers is streamers are very good at production value in a small enclosed space that they
and
have
not doing
100%
live
control
production,
over.
so, which
Yep.
is its own monster.
It's a disaster.
So,
It's just yeah.
I'm just excited because this is what I might be writing about.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
It's just like I just
There he
it's
is.
interesting.
Look at him.
But now he can like
Like because here's the thing, like all of the production in terms of like post production or like like sort of pre and post in a way, just not like because they have the lower third graphics, they have all of the like the packages ready to go.
Yeah.
That stuff is all done really well because those are all things that you can do at home, but in the moment, in those adjustments that have to be made to make a good production while you're on the field, I feel there is learning to be done.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree, and there's also a certain amount of like variability that they could not have accounted for.
Yeah.
Who knows when these guys got here? Like, when did they land, and did they have time to actually test lighting? I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's a hard no. And then does it matter? Probably not. Because there's a million different things that go wrong in the broadcast.
But yeah,
If they had like time to like visit the venue first and test stuff
But who
in the
did-
venue,
no,
you know,
But
like
who's visiting and doing the
No, but
testing?
yeah, but like who's doing the broadcast? And like people broadcasting, it shouldn't matter how soon or after the people arrive at the thing.
yeah.
That like the arrival of
It's about the
guests.
expertise and competency of the people running the broadcast.
Yeah.
What I'll say is that I think that I'm not saying we're overanalyzing this, but rather I think what we saw from the New York Excelsior broadcast was more a signal of insecurity in the product than this. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I watch a lot of NBA games. They're all like this. Like, it's very like kind of lower key. Like things aren't like so like when you get to the playoffs, maybe then things become a little bit more mediated. But like a lot of times it'll be like that. Like just follow the thing. Doesn't have to have all these cuts or anything like that. And like this is what I would expect from a broadcast based on my experience with the NBA and the NFL, because they have security that what you've come to watch is the product on the field, right? And I'm not saying that it doesn't matter that better production values are somehow worse, but it strikes me that like that this production value is like the Dallas feel are like comfortable with the product that they're putting forth. They don't feel the need to mediate as much like the things around the product or the paratext as much.
Yeah, because they have a certain, and I think that part of that might come from their confidence in knowing that they've already done this. Dallas has already done this. They did this last season when they hosted, so they do have a certain amount of like comfort of just knowing that people are here to come watch Dallas play.
Big crunch, big flavor. Sorry.
Oh my God, no! We have to talk about Big Crunch though. Crunch time. So people were complaining throughout the entire weekend about how intrusive the advertising was.
yeah.
And it was super intrusive, man. There were like, what was it, Cheez-Its? Cheez-It commercials, like no shit, constantly. And it would just interrupt gameplay. You'd miss like crucial stuff. And I will say, so I went back and watched some stuff after the fact to prepare for today. And I didn't get very much advertising at all in that kind of going back and watching it. But when you're watching live, it'll interrupt. Owl will have its own commercials that it's also broadcasting, and then there's the additional broadcast of YouTube advertisements.
Yeah.
And it is just so much more intrusive than it was before.
And it's
They
important
have to find
know,
that balance.
It's important to know that like we have like a team in New York broadcasting the games in New York. You have a team in Arlington, Texas broadcasting this game, and we have a team in LA where the analysts are. So we have like a studio in LA with Zoe, that's now the host, and she's amazing.
She's so good.
She did an amazing
She's the
job.
best.
I feel bad for her because the production team screw up so much. You know what I mean? Like, and they have like the analyst panel is in LA. It's not like on the ground with like the teams and whatever. And like surprisingly enough, like. I felt like, in my opinion, LA should be the place where they have like the most control over because they are home. You know what I mean? Like it's their place. You know, like it's where Blizzard literally is.
Yeah.
And it was where there were most problems. The most problems were during the part of the broadcast that they went to LA to talk about stuff. And this is like unacceptable. Like there is no explanation for this at all. Do you agree with me?
No, I totally agree. And I mean, I felt really disappointed by it. I also kind of expected it. I knew that this weekend was going to be a nightmare. I'm expecting that the next few weeks will similarly not be great as they kind of find that balance, right?
Iron out the details.
Yeah, because they're going to have to figure things out. Like, well, it's not a great idea if we're in the last 5 seconds of a control map and then we cut to commercial. Oh,
Yeah.
imagine, we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Right, but I think there's this, and this kind of speaks to a bigger conversation about advertising in YouTube. I wonder how much control over that they really have, in terms of how frequently those ads are just going to trigger no matter what you're watching. Like, is there a change to the YouTube advertising algorithm for this? Or is it just kind of slapping the standard, like, every few minutes you're going to get a 30-second video?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not sure.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, I think that like it's part of being a young sports team, right? Because
Mhm.
like ads are the way you make money, so you have to do ads, right? But it becomes like the NFL has like a particular rhythm of how you should expect advertisements. Like after every score, there's going to be a cut to commercial breaks in the NFL.
Mhm.
In the NBA, it's going to be like every quarter and during timeouts, right?
Yep.
And so like you like the thing is as a young sport and also working within the non-traditional broadcasts, right? Because like a YouTube ad is like different than the kind of ad necessarily that you're going to see on your typical broadcast of like like at an NFL game where
Mhm.
like it's kind of all a self-contained thing. Like it's hyper mediated because there's like
Yeah.
the platform itself is just intruding
Yeah.
itself upon
But-
the game.
but they had problems with like branded content, like regular branded
Mhm.
content.
Yeah.
Like they had like crunch time was like a section of the broadcast when they go through like plays through crunch time, whatever. And like so you are imagine if you are the caster and you're on the desk and you're no, let's go now to crunch time. This is the moment where like the panel comes in with like the logo and crunch time and whatever, and then you start to talk about it. So they had like now it's crunch time and nothing happened. Or
Yeah.
it happened like 30 seconds
Yeah.
So it's
later.
an
You know what I
in-game
mean?
thing.
Like,
I think that should just be like a highlight. Like this is the crunch time. This is the moment. Now that we've seen the game, that mattered the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah, but that's a problem. When they announced it, there was a problem between like the desk, like what the desk were doing, and what like the back
production
end,
team
the
was
production
able to, like, kinda call
deliver
Yeah.
at the same time. So this
Yeah.
and this is so basic. You know what I mean? Like, and this goes back what Kelly was saying. Like, this is like basic TV and radio broadcast stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there are like a lot, like hundreds and hundreds of like companies and teams that are doing this forever. You know what I mean? It's not hard to find someone who is able to like to produce this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and this for me is very disappointing because it's annoying
Yeah.
by the end of the day. You know?
Yeah.
It just kind of
But-
intrudes on the content. It's like, I'm
Exactly.
not watching this to know more about Cheez-Its.
Yeah.
I know all I need to know about Cheez-Its.
Yeah.
I'm trying to watch Gamsu wreck someone.
That's right.
So, I kind of want to move a little bit out of that realm because right now, at least the way we're talking about it is kind of almost more just complaining about the broadcast. So, like, what does that mean? What is like for Overwatch League? How does this matter? I guess is like kind of the question. Like, yes, it's annoying. Yes, it affects the viewer experience. But can we attach this thing that we're talking about to like particular other concepts we've been talking about, like investment or legitimacy or whatever things we've been talking about? Can we like try to connect this to a broader kind of academic understanding of esports in the Overwatch League?
My immediate thing for that would be that this gives a bit of credence to all the people that have been saying that Overwatch League will either dissipate quickly or isn't valuable or profitable or useful, because like simple production errors that they haven't had in the past make it seem as though they're very disorganized.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, to mass consumers, not to people like us, to mass consumers that have very little exposure to gaming or esports, this just makes it seem like it's a bunch of kids getting together and trying to do a broadcast.
Okay.
So it's like, yes, it affects my personal experience, but it also, I think, might spell some concerns for esports broadly. Because if you ask random people, this might be the thing that they are most familiar with. Because it's on television, there's a ton of gear, and it's everywhere. They have international presence. They may not know about CSGO or Smash or Street Fighter or any million other esports that there are.
This
This-
is very visible.
This is very visible, and they're really good at broadcasting it. Like, they're very good at saying, we are the premier esports league. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
But, like both of you were saying, these are kind of like baby errors that there's no need for them.
Exactly.
These weren't the errors that we were anticipating necessarily happening. The major issues that they're dealing with are things like travel and like players going places and setting up these venues, not in doing what they've always been doing very well.
Yeah.
But I think it also is important in a historical sense. Like, you know, even like 2-3 years from now, you'll see the production value become better because they work through these And then, I think that it's just important for these efforts to be made so that we could see it's not in its infancy, but in a way it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, like, the infancy of the genre in a certain way.
Yeah, at the same time, like, especially the Overwatch League, they are super committed in this idea of, like, remediating, like, the traditional sports experience. And that's why I want to talk about Jake. And I feel that, like, if you are committed to do the traditional sports experience, so you have to, like, do it right. You know what I mean? Like, because if you are trying to draw in, like, someone that watches the NBA or the NFL, whatever, like, people have, like, such a bar in terms of, like, expectations. And it's not just, like, compared to the NBA, but compared to season 1 or season 2.
Sure.
Where those mistakes didn't happen. You know what I mean? So I feel that, like, there is also, like, this awkward position of the Overwatch League between, like, what a more like traditional sports broadcast is and what esports broadcast is. And I feel that Jake is a good example to talk about this because I was thinking about, like, players, like the career of the player, and I was thinking about someone as XQC and Jake, for example.
Yeah.
Like, Jake always was, like, the good boy, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
he's a good player, yes, but he was, like, he always was, like, more, like, he had a more media friendly
Yeah, he was a fan
persona.
favorite.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, for sure.
he knew how to address to the camera. He, in a traditional broadcast sense, you know, he knew how to smile. Okay, he knew how to give an interview. Like, during season 1, he was, like, the one player that Blizzard sent to do interviews and like night shows and whatever, because he had, like, this. He knew how to perform the role of like the up and coming player, you know, like sports guy and whatever. And I feel that this landed him this position in Blizzard. You know what I mean? Like, because Blizzard would never give a position like that for someone as XQC, for example, that built his whole reputation on, like, being an asshole on Twitch. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel that because Overwatch League is based between this awkward midway place between, like, a traditional esports and a career of a player that's need to build this public persona and give interviews and whatever, and the esports where you have to be a Twitch personality and you have to build your community there, you know what I mean? Like, so I feel that, like, Blizzard promoting Jake to that position signals what Blizzard's want to do with Blizzard's expectations are towards their players, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it grants them a career after they're no longer playing this game.
Yeah,
on a
But
team.
that's kind of like a top 1% thing though, because like not ever like there's 120 players if there's 5 teams, 6 players in team. I know most teams have more than 6.
Yeah.
So we'll say 150. We'll just go with that for right now. So you have 150 players. They can't all have broadcast analyst jobs afterwards. So like, yes, that one player gets that, like, opportunity, but the like of the 12 players playing right now, are any of them going to get that opportunity? Likely not.
I mean,
But
a lot of sports broadcasters, like, aren't a lot of them ex-players as well. So.
Yes, but, like, let me put it this way. You have an NFL weekend, let's say ideally you have 16 games, and you have 2 commentators per game, and they're all former players, that's 32 players. An NFL team has 52 players, and any given season has 52 players. Right? So, like, if you're looking at who are ex-NFL players, there are literally thousands of ex-NFL players, like 52 times 30 is already 1,500 active NFL players, let alone who was playing in the 1990s, right? And there's some overlap between who plays each year, but like there's so many more players than there are potential jobs for broadcasters. And so all I'm saying is that yes, like for some players, this avenue for potential, like, revenue and potential employment after the thing exists, but for the vast majority of players, it does not.
I agree. But my point is, like,
it's also those are the people that you see in front of the screen. For every 2 people in front of the screen broadcasting, there's like 30 behind.
Yeah, but but like Decay and Gamsu here, they don't have professional training to be a camera person or to run the servers. They're not, like, very unlikely are ex-players going to be involved in the non-face production side of things.
I don't know that that's true.
That's at least true in traditional sports leagues.
Right, but it's different with traditional sports with esports.
Is it really that different? Are the people who are behind the camera right now ex professionals in Counter-Strike? I don't see this happening in any other league.
Because a lot of them started with streaming, so
Yeah.
if they're streaming, then they have more natural camera
experience.
Yeah.
But are you gonna hire Doha to do
They're
this?
just
Who
I
doesn't
think-
even necessarily speak English?
Well,
Or are you
no.
gonna pick somebody who went to school for broadcast stuff?
Well, it's
to
possible,
handle the
yes,
technical
but
side of
what I'm
the
saying
thing?
is it's more likely for someone in esports to be able to eventually work into a production career than someone in a traditional sport, because their line of work is more aligned with the electronic production than analog sports would be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that may be true, but I still think it is incredibly unlikely. I think I would love to be proven wrong, but I really sincerely doubt that Blizzard is going to be looking into former players, or former players are going to be often applying to be doing those kinds of jobs behind the camera.
But not necessarily technical stuff, but
Yes.
being analysts or being
Being
consultants.
analysts, being
Yes.
coaches.
But I'm saying that there aren't that
operating
many
cameras.
analyst jobs.
No, but
That's what I'm saying. There's 30 in the I know the NFL, but there's 30 of those jobs,
We're
and
not
then there's
disagreeing with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you that there aren't many positions, because there
Mhm.
aren't. However, I will say a team in China will be far more likely to hire a famous Chinese esports player
yes.
than they would some rando.
For
There's
for what though? For the analyst job.
For an
yes.
analyst job, for a coaching job, for some kind of team
Forecasting.
broadcasting
Mhm.
position, it kind of
Yes.
depends on how Blizzard decides to lay out this infrastructure. If they decide that they're going to have a production team that is housed under Blizzard by itself, then they have control over the hiring.
Sure.
If this kind of happens where, for example, New York hosted at the New York homestand, and therefore they are choosing the production team.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of depends on how Blizzard decides to organize it, and I don't know how they're doing it now.
Mhm.
But I think that if that is a priority of theirs, to offer a kind of a career longevity that goes beyond your viability as an esports player, that is a way to do it. Encourage the people that are already playing in the league to then take up these other positions long after they're professionals.
And that's the thing. How do you make yourself marketable in those
Mm-hmm.
positions? You know what I mean? And that's the thing that's gonna be, I guess, an important turning point in the Overwatch League, because those guys, they have to make a decision. I'm gonna be internet personality, something in the XQC kind of way, or I'm gonna be a marketable caster, analyst, more media oriented,
Yes.
traditional media oriented
Yeah.
player. You know what I mean? And this is something that I feel that's gonna produce a lot of conflict
Yeah.
over the years.
I think the reason why I'm kind of passionate about this and why I think it's important is that I think the way that we're talking about it right now, if we were to just go with kind of what we're talking about and use what was his name, Jonah Jake example stuff, I think what we're ultimately doing is we're really underselling the precarity of being an esports athlete or being any kind of athlete in general.
Yeah.
Like in the NFL, the rosters start at 90 at the start of the training season,
Yes.
but it has to be cut down to 50 by the start of the actual season, which means that means over half of the people who are players in the NFL at the start of training season are already out of the NFL by the start of the actual season. And so these are people who are there's a high precarity in that institution of who is a player and who is, and who can make it as a player and stuff like that. And I think that same precarity exists here, and there's simply the economy around this. There's for a lot of these players, there is not an opportunity for advancement where they are right now. They can keep playing the game, they can make money this way. $1 million fucking prize pool for the mid-season tournament, that's great.
Yeah.
There's a lot, I'm not saying there isn't good stuff here, but if you look at the NFL, for instance, the players who go out of the league are broke, like, and file for bankruptcy with it, like it's like a hugely high percentage within like 3 years of playing in the NFL, right? Even though they're technically making all this money, in theory that can help them like advance and get skills or get an analyst job. The fact of the matter is, the vast majority of athletes in general, besides those at the very top, are in a very precarious situation, and they do not survive on the merits of what they did and the skills that they gained through this. Like, Doha understands this game better than I ever will. And I hope Doha does great and he gets to be in the league for a long time. But let's say Doha, he underperforms. He's not a player next year. He's not popular enough to be a streamer because there's a limited possibility in that gig economy of who can be successful, right? With all, like, he's in a precarious position as a player. All of these players are. And I think that while we can, like, note the merits and the possibilities of players to have advancement through potential, like, being part of the analyst job or like this kind of thing, that is still segmented. That's just as segmented as being the top player who gets to play for 10 years and like is set for life because of it. And like, it's the same idea. Like, that's just as likely as becoming an analyst. Like, it's a very unlikely thing to parlay playing in the Overwatch League decay for 3 years or for 3 seasons or something, and then to parlay that into long-term employment opportunities. These are precarious gig economy workers, and like, I think that's worth highlighting and understanding about what we're watching and what this is.
For sure.
And it definitely occurs. I know I'm using traditional sports examples a lot, but it certainly occurs in esports as well, right? Like, on every CS:GO team, all those players can't be popular media personalities,
right?
And on the same, and that because that's been around a lot longer. And like, you see players who like are out of the league. They're like working completely different fields often within a year because this is the case for almost every single esport I can think of right now. When I looked up like, what is this player doing now who is the best CS:GO player or one of the best 10 years ago, and it's like they're now working in a grocery store or something like that, right?
Sure.
And so I just think, I don't know, that's how I feel. That's why I'm pushing so hard.
I think completely right. I totally agree.
I don't think that they're mutually exclusive necessarily. And the other thing is, like, I'm not, like, I agree that can be highly exploitative, but I also hesitate to like kind of like shame it in a way because like we live in an at-will state, and yes, I know that if I get fired from my job, I could get a job in a similar place that has the same potential for a long-term career, but that can be cut off at any time because we're in an at-will state.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's more just, I think part of it has to also do with like I think there is a difference though between like you work at Brass Bell, the music store, right?
And I know that there's a potential for a long career where there's not so much.
But even if you lose your job at Brass Bell, there are other music stores in Milwaukee that you could go work at in theory. Meanwhile, there's more of a precarity for these people because there isn't as much opportunity to just go play Overwatch somewhere else, especially with the way that Overwatch.
No, that's what I just said.
Yeah.
They don't have the.
I was kind of just trying to rephrase it and combobulate it in my head. The opposite of discombobulate.
No, I think you're right though, and especially with kind of what the popularity and high investment in Overwatch League did to Overwatch contenders. It really affected the kind of diversity and ability for different people to participate in the game.
Of doing this after the fact, right? Like,
right.
I want to snipe to the end. Like,
I just couldn't watch it anymore because I was getting motion sickness.
Sally can't watch first-person shooters, which is okay.
I can play them. It's just watching, especially on that fucking that TV is the worst.
Is it because when you're playing it, you have like control over what you're seeing, and here you don't? That makes sense.
This is another problem. Blizzard really needs to find a way to make this more easy to spectate. Because it's not, I mean, I understand the game, I know how the characters work,
I don't think,
of course,
the strategies, I know the meta, but even so, it's so hard to like keep track of everything. You have to be so
careful.
I mean,
that's why it's so funny to me. This is like immediately what I thought when Overwatch League was became like a thing. My really the thing I thought right away, and I don't want to call myself Nostradamus, was this game is a fucking nightmare to watch compared to like any other esport almost. There's 12 players, which is more than most esports. I can't think of another esport that has 12.
Yeah,
CS:GO has 10. Like so, and I know that two more like 12 and 10 are not greatly distant. But in CS:GO, there's always a counting down because in CS:GO you start with 10, and then it's like person is dead.
It's
They're not
reducing.
coming back until the next round. So suddenly there's only 3 players. Like you can the focus slowly narrows.
Yep.
It creates a rhythm of like watching, like and understanding what's happening in the game. Whereas in Overwatch, like 12 people are alive most of the time.
Yeah.
And so like understanding what's happening can be difficult.
Absolutely. Whether or not you've played the game, like I haven't played Overwatch in like over a year, like myself. Do I watch like every AWL game that I can? Absolutely, because I understand enough and I'm invested enough in the kind of narratives that are being made. But the action in this game is constant. So I was watching a specific match yesterday, and I took note of like how long the team fights lasted. So this was on Lijiang, and I'm pretty sure it was the Vancouver Titans, might have been the Valiant. So first team takes the point, it's a control map, and within 20... Okay, I gotta say, McGravy was a Mayhem player for about 30 seconds. About 30 seconds, and they were like, goodbye. And I'm like, that was the worst...
The best 30 seconds
worst
of
choice
Janelle's
they
life.
made. Worst choice they made was letting go of him. But it's fine. I'm only a little upset.
Like this is the closest it gets, right? So it's like everything converging onto this moment, right?
Yes.
Like that's what you want when you're watching esports. Like I think that's what makes CS:GO one of the most popular ones, and that has stood the test of time to some degree, because Counter-Strike lived a long time before that as a spectator sport, is because you can boil things down to essential moments. Like a clutch is where a player gets the final kill and secures the round and stuff like that.
But that's the thing, like that Jiva bomb, we needed the replay to understand, because we saw the kill feed and something happened, but the camera was not in this right moment at the right time in order to deliver
Sure,
what
there's
we
no way
needed.
to predict.
And that's this is another reason why Overwatch in League needs like a top tier production team on all the time, because
But part of the problem is the game engine and the game design. Overwatch is designed, for better or for worse, to be a game where you always feel like you're making decisions. That's what it's designed. As a player, that's what they want you to feel. That's not necessarily good for a spectator sport with 12 players, right? It's better if there's mostly a lot of downtime. Like think about a game like League. Well, League or Dota. No. In League or Dota, there's a lot of...
I'm
it was
just an
just
example. Sorry,
No,
I don't agree with that.
It
Okay.
was just
But like in League or Dota, there's a lot of downtime because there's like the laning phase where they're mostly killing creeps, so it allows the camera person to quickly switch between the different lanes to be like, something big is happening in this lane, and now we can switch to that lane, and it's like
there's more distance between like the things that are happening, because the core objectives are different. Because Overwatch is so directly a team conflict game, it requires that you have like ridiculous attention on all 6 players. Not even to begin to mention that the hero pool is constantly growing, the abilities are changing, and you can change heroes at literally any time. So there's no sense of consistency, which is probably what the hero pool is trying to do, at least in part.
And those players we best recognize, at least for me, are players who are associated with a particular, like Ryo Jae-hong and Ana. Like I know there's a lot of good Ana players probably, but like I know that he's like a really great leader. In fact, the one weekend where I actually watched a significant amount of Overwatch League was because they were offering the suite for free for that weekend. It was like the start of season 2, and I could just go watch Ryo Jae-hong. Like that's what I did. Almost like a streamer experience. It's like I just clicked Ryo Jae-hong and I watched the whole game from his perspective, and it made I was able to at least craft the narrative in my head to some degree.
And there's a certain element of like, for example, if you were practicing to become a better player and you're maining a particular hero, you want to be able to watch, say, Ryo Jae-hong playing Ana if Ana's who you're trying to get better at. So that's so good. Things like that facilitate the relationship between spectators and players, I think. And the problem is that, at least on Twitch, and we'll kind of see what they do with this, because right now there is no all access package. There's no version of that. It'll be interesting to see what they do on YouTube to kind of mitigate that, because we've lost... OWL tokens are no longer a thing because the drops were enabled by Twitch.
I think that they're working on making that come back though, right?
Yeah, they're gonna have to like figure out how to fit these kind of traditional
Go Lastro.
It is such a good feeling to get someone with a nade.
Yeah.
It just is.
Dude, like Jonah killed like a 1v1 Ana versus Reaper like
Get wrecked, bro.
on Anubis. Did you see that? Like it was like,
Oh.
how do you win a Ana versus Reaper?
Literally
1v1.
Sleep dart,
Jonah.
bitch.
Man, the guy's a god.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like he's a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we only have a couple
Yeah, we've
minutes
got a few
left.
minutes left here.
So like, what are some maybe closing thoughts that we have as we're kind of watching this and thinking about? We've talked a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be best for the closing thoughts on the league format and how we might define it and its importance and understand it.
I think that one of the things about league play that is different with this league as opposed to others, which is that this is a franchise league. It costs a lot of money to break into this. A new team in Season 1 cost $20 million, and the cost went infinitely higher. So this precludes a lot of people from participating in the professional sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Other leagues that maybe aren't franchised and therefore they're like licensed out differently, I think may offer different opportunities for people to get involved and for different regions and areas to get representation where that isn't really possible here. But I also think that league play in this particular case might offer a chance for you to, as someone that lives in a particular region, if you've got a team here, you can kind of have an affinity with that team. There's a relationship between you, the person that either plays the game or just watches the sport, and then has this kind of like city or national pride associated with that team, whether they win or lose.
I feel that like league for me is interesting because we can always have like good content to consume in a stable standard of quality,
Like an
you know what I mean?
ecosystem, like standard ecosystem.
Yeah. Like for example, I know that I'm gonna have like Overwatch League games every like weekend for
Yep.
like these
like the whole year.
for the whole year. And I mean the teams are not all as good as each other, but I mean
Sure.
they're at least like professional. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
better than
They're better
most
than
of us.
me.
Yeah, and
Which
like
is
it's different
low
from
bar.
like fighting games where like, oh, I have like this big Street Fighter tournament, like maybe 2 or 3, but like if you go on Twitch, you're gonna have like other tournaments going on, but it's
They're not
hard.
gonna be big
Yeah,
fish.
they're gonna
Yeah.
not gonna be like they're not gonna have like the same consistency in terms of quality of like entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, so this is what's for me. I'm excited to see how Blizzard is gonna manage like the league this year in order to deliver this like experience like every week. You know?
Yeah.
I think what I would like to point to in our closing minutes is that league play is, I think, to some degree, I don't want to call it an evolution, but it's a natural progression in this industry, the esports industry, which is the show is all about, right? From tournaments. Tournaments are much more, if we're imagining them, a grassroots affair. At least the kind of tournaments we were talking about last week. Obviously, the playoff tournament at the end of this is a tournament format, but it's still within the confines of league play, right?
Yeah.
To qualify, you have to play through a league, or to some degree. So it's always informed the results by the league. But a tournament is like easy to be like, you know what, this weekend everybody bring $5 and play Smash. Winner gets the pot, right? Whatever. Like a tournament is like scalable in this certain way, and it's got these certain things going on, and it makes sense that as esports, have continued to develop, and as more money is getting pumped into them, as they're becoming more recognized as a legitimate and valid industry, and I want to note that they're being recognized by that, but there's still a high precarity for these people who are part of it.
Yeah.
As this kind of continues to develop and stuff, we're going to see, I think, more and more leagues come to take effect, because leagues offer certain aspects of competition that are more institutional than tournaments. Tournaments, we can imagine, reflect kind of a grassroots understanding of community around these games, around what it means to be a player. Right, everything's kind of built from the bottom up, whereas a league play is always going to be constructed from the top down.
Yeah.
And so you're typically going to see, institutional structures struggling to define. So it's interesting, when we talked about tournaments last week, we really did not mention who was organizing them at all. right? We were much more focused on the content and the players, like in our discussion, as well as like what the tournament meant for the players. And we did that also as well today. We talked about what the league means for the players a lot today as well. But we talked a lot about Blizzard's control over this and what that means, right? How Blizzard functions within this ecosystem, how they get to change the rules at will, and that affects all these players, right? And we question their decision making at times, right? Are we questioning the decision making of the organization? Like, oh man, like they need to up their production quality, like this is unacceptable, etc., etc., etc. All that stuff we're talking about shows that once we understand something is functioning as a league rather than as a tournament, we are imagining it as an institution. And suddenly, I think some anthropological understandings of institutions become a lot more valuable in our descriptions and our academic writings about these things.
Absolutely.
You
you
say
say dope.
Yes.
I thought you might have said nope. Like, nope! Kelly,
It's like,
any last word, Kelly?
Get better product. No, I'm kidding. No, I am excited to see how this develops because it's always exciting when something new is just kind of growing into like what it can be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm an optimist here.
Yeah, I'm also very optimistic about it. I have high hopes for it. I wouldn't be sad if it wasn't controlled by the corporation that makes it, but
Yeah.
who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I to say that?
And with who am
All right,
I?
folks.
We're going to end our
We're going to end our stream. Thank you for hanging out and talking about Overwatch League. We'll be back next week.
Peace out.
Bye.